not saying anything in case he claps, you know, so waiting for the cue.
Yeah.
It's funny because, sorry.
Welcome, Jessica, to episode 10 of the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting. Like, I've seen it online and now I get to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I super appreciate it.
Yeah.
So for those tuning in, today we have Jessica Moini, who's a mindset and life coach and the starter of the Kindness Catalog. I guess maybe we can start by introducing yourself a little bit, your background, how you got into the Kindness Catalog, and how you've become a mindset and life coach.
Yes. So I spent 13 years in corporate and it was a great time in terms of I learned a lot. I learned a lot in terms of skills, but about myself personally along that journey. And yeah, I mean, at some point along the way, that voice got louder that was like, there's more. You should be doing something different. And eventually I listened to it, but that was after 13 years, you know, of suppressing that voice by, you know, I prided myself on being busy.
Right.
I overworked, I overachieved, but I experienced a lot of burnout. I really put myself through it because I was trying to live by society's version of success. I was trying to be the serious businesswoman. I was trying to achieve, I was chasing money. And then eventually I just had a moment where I stopped and listened to that voice and I was like, what is success? Because this isn't it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And
good for you. Good for making that
you.
step
Yeah.
because I know it's not easy, right? You know, I
Yeah.
think we all fall into this trap of, you know, following a certain guideline, like you were saying, for the approval of others, whether society or parents maybe, or whoever it may be, we follow a certain path until we finally, you know, sort of crack and realize that it's not meant for us, right? It's like our soul that's begging us to head in a different direction.
Yes,
that is what it is.
It's listening to the soul. And I think for, you know, people that are out there watching this is a gentle reminder to listen to that voice or listen to the voice or listen to the emotions because it's always an indication of something.
Absolutely.
And when you stop and follow, I mean, like, look, my life has transformed in, you know, a year of quitting my job, figuring out what I wanted to actually do with my life.
Yep.
And now I don't pride myself on being busy. I'm rebuilding my relationship with that word,
Good
honestly. But I am busier than I've ever been before, but I'm also more relaxed, more fulfilled, and just happier. So that is proof in itself that success and happiness can coexist when you've got the right tools.
Absolutely. When you've got the right tools, and I think it's also a matter of following your heart and your passion, right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people preach, you know, the term work-life balance, meaning work should be not so fun and then life should be fun, and you need to find the balance between the two.
Yes.
But if you have your work something in alignment with yourself or with your soul, like we were saying earlier, then life becomes one. Work and life become intertwined or integrated.
Exactly.
Right? And then there's no more need to say like, oh, this is work and this is life, because now it's just life.
It's just life.
Exactly.
I love that concept, Roy, because yes, like in my mind, I've always separated it, but you've just maybe in this instant, like, come to a great realization that it is one when you are living in alignment. And you know what? I've realized, like, recently as I was looking back through my content online, I was thinking, I speak a lot about, you know, what I went through in my corporate experience. And that's, you know, so happens to be anxiety, overwhelm, burnout. But I don't talk enough about the great times that I had and everything I learned from that, because you know, if I didn't go through those experiences that are quite normal, to be honest, you know, a lot of people go through these things on a day-to-day basis and are still, you know, ignoring them. But if I didn't go through them, it wouldn't have driven me to the direction to launch the Kindness Catalog and to become a coach. So I'm so grateful for my corporate experience.
Awesome. No, of course. I mean, like you were saying, what I've realized, Jessica, is every step of our entire life was necessary to get to where we are today.
Yes.
So we're not who we are in spite of what we've been through, but because of it, right?
100%.
And it's important to make that distinction because it's very true, right?
Yes, yeah, and to acknowledge it and to thank it. You know, my boss, my old boss reached out to me the other day and he said, you know, I'm feeling guilty for the experience that you had in corporate. I didn't know that you were going through everything you went through. And I was like, whoa, no, like this made me who I am. And like you said, every experience, whether it be work, whether it be raising a family, whether it be trauma that we go through, whether, you know, that's big or small trauma, it all creates our identity and it creates hidden rules and patterns that we have in our life. Like, I should be further along by now.
Exactly.
Based on where my parents were, or, you know, I can't afford to say no because when I did that before, I ended up losing a relationship over it. And it's like every experience creates these hidden rules and patterns, whether they be good or bad, you know?
Right, absolutely. And I think that's so important that you mentioned that because like you were saying, everything that we go through, including our trauma, whether it's childhood trauma, more recent trauma, every single experience shapes and defines you and also helps you build that learning step that you needed to learn from.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, the resilience.
The resilience, the knowledge, the capability, and then it can start some healing work for you, which we'll get into a little bit later on today. So yeah, it's necessary, it's crucial, and it's part of our paths, basically.
I was on another podcast the other day and they asked me, how did you overcome burnout? And I said, by going through it again and again and realizing it was so awful and uncomfortable that I had to stop and figure it out and realize that I didn't want to go through it again, to try, you know, different steps to avoid going through that in the future. Thankfully, I am there now. I'm sure something else will pop up, you know, that's life.
No, for sure. So you now become a mindset and life coach.
Yes.
What do you do exactly? If you can touch a little bit on that.
I would love to. So, you know, my day-to-day, when I sat back in that moment and said, you know what, this isn't success for me. What is success? I sat and defined what success for me looks like. And that was helping people. That was learning and creating. These are just three things that I value. I felt like if I was able to fill my time with these three things, that I would feel fulfilled in the version of me that I am today. So now my day-to-day looks like one-on-one coaching. I am building my courses for my website that are launching at the 1st of June.
Awesome.
And I'm going to continue building them out until the end of the year. And starting June, I'm going to be doing workshops. So workshops with groups of people, creating events and going and really driving impact with as many people as possible at one time. So I'm really excited about that. But I also, I'm constantly learning.
Sure.
I am in the middle of a NLP course now, a second one.
Cool.
You know, constantly expanding the mind and creating. You know, I'd love to be creative. And, you know, for some people that looks like painting or writing. For me, that looks like dancing around on a camera for Instagram and creatively thinking about how I can get a complex understanding or theory across in a very simple, creative way. So yeah, that's my day-to-day, a mix of all of those.
Right. No, and that's awesome. And it's great that you mentioned creativity, because something I've learned, Jessica, is we are all actually innately creative in very different ways, right? You could be a creative artist, you could be a creative painter, a creative engineer, creative architect. Creativity is all innately within us. We just need to tap into it on our insides, right? It's because we have all of this conditioning around us that sometimes clouds our judgment, it clouds our creativity, and it makes us a little bit more rigid in the way we do things, right? Because that's coming from a construct of the mind rather than flowing naturally through your heart or soul or whatever it may be, right? And the minute you get free of that conditioning, you're able to flow and be a lot more creative in whatever it is that you do. Whether it's a podcast or a social media page or whatever the case may be, basically.
I love that. And I agree, because, if I think about myself, and I think about, I used to limit my creativity unknowingly, like a lot of people do. And that looked like punishing myself or shaming myself for overthinking. And now I embrace it. Obviously, it's not healthy to overthink all the time, but I allow myself time before bed, 30 minutes on the clock, and I just say, think, just literally, just do a thought download and think from A to Z. And I go from shopping lists, I go to, what I'm going to do the following day, what I need to add to my to-do list. But I also come up with so many creative ideas. So by the end of it, because I've allowed my brain that freedom to just be without judgment, the ideas come. So yes, I love the idea of adding creativity in whatever form in life.
Absolutely. And how important is, working on yourself to sort of unlock that creativity? I know you've mentioned in a few of your videos that you visited a mental health retreat and a monastery as well. So yeah, if you can touch on those experiences and how you feel those experiences helped you transition into doing what you're doing now.
Wow. I mean, it was a journey. The whole, with all of us, I think we try different things. I've had therapists, I've had coaches, I've been on retreats, I've been to seminars.
Good for you.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand myself at such a deep level. So yes, the mental health retreat, that was an interesting one. So I was going home for Christmas and I had a couple of weeks off work, and I said, you know what, I want to do something for myself. I want to travel somewhere. I want to do something before I go and give the love to my family and friends at home. So I was exploring online and I came across this mental health retreat in Ireland. And I'd never been to Ireland. I'm from England. I thought, oh, cool. Okay, I mean, it's not exactly the Bahamas. It's not hot and sunny. It's Christmas. It's December. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go. It looked amazing. So because I pride myself on investing in growth and health and wellness, I said, you know what? I'm going to skim out on the flights and I'm going to go via Saudi to Ireland. And when I landed, I had no coat, my bag didn't turn up, and I was due to be on a bus literally an hour from then, and it was the middle of December, it was practically snowing. So I ran through the town, I picked up a toothbrush and, underwear and the basics, the pure basics. I arrived at this mental health retreat and I just giggled, like how ironic, like I'm coming to connect with myself and I've left all my baggage behind. And I was like, this is crazy. You couldn't write it. So yeah, I went, and that mental health retreat was everything that I've done has been insightful, I think, from the therapist to this retreat to other retreats. every time you're like peeling back a layer to yourself.
Yeah.
And so, in that there was a lot of creativity,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of painting, yoga, meditation and things
Awesome.
like that. And so that was great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what about the monastery?
Nepal. Yes. Okay. So similar experience, although I had my bag with me on that one, so I was
a nice bonus.
Yes. So it started out great. Basically, I went for a couple of weeks. I checked into a monastery, and I did an introduction to Buddhism. And
awesome.
Yeah, I mean that meant literally living like a monk.
Awesome.
You know, waking up 3 o'clock on a vegetarian diet, meditating, spending a lot of hours in silence, like most of the day, sitting through lectures and different types of meditation. You know, at the time I thought there's one type of meditation. Turns out, you know, there's so many.
Yeah.
And that was awesome because it allowed me to see what I liked, you know. I'm not a religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person.
Me too.
And that experience allowed me to take beautiful parts of the Buddhism religion and apply them to my life and try and simplify things that I'd overcomplicated.
Right.
And, you know, another thing was at the end of the day, after spending the whole day in silence listening, it was almost like looking in a mirror.
Right.
You know, you look in a mirror and you see something, your head tells you a story. And the longer you sit there, the longer you simplify everything about your identity.
Right.
So yeah, like it was incredible. It was transformative. I mean, at the end of the day, we would sit down as a group after the silence and we'd discuss ideas and what we'd taken from the day.
Yeah.
And that was eye-opening because it was like our brains are wired in a way where we process information a certain way, and then you get a completely different perspective, and it would expand your mind so much. And then, you know, you get to go to sleep and think about their ideas.
Absolutely. No, that's amazing. Because I've also gotten into spirituality over the past few years.
Nice.
So I've been looking at, you know, first of all, different religions, just to, you know, see what's going on. Yeah. And it's interesting because they all have a common teaching and a common saying. It's just portrayed in different ways by different people, but the essence of it all is the same.
100%.
And you know, I've also started incorporating meditation in my daily routine as well, and that has transformed my life completely.
Really?
Absolutely. You know, it just does so many things on a psychological level and also on a spiritual level as well, right? And meditation is probably one of the more or most important things that I think most people should be doing.
Yes.
You know, it helps in every single dimension of life, basically, right?
I agree. Yeah.
Whether it's releasing stress, trauma releasing as well, clearing the mind, slowing down the mental chatter, so many different things.
So many benefits. Yes.
So many benefits. I see how it's, you know, my mind in the past, you know, especially when I was working in the corporates, high burnout, high stress, high anxiety, unhealed childhood trauma, overstimulating, loss of caffeine, loss of nicotine, binge drinking on the weekends to get over the Monday to Friday. So my mind was like the top of an ocean, basically. It was so wavy, so choppy. And meditation essentially helps calm the mind down into a much deeper level of the ocean, if you want to look at it that way.
Yes,
right?
I love that analogy. Yes,
and
get
then,
deep in the ocean.
Absolutely. You know, you get down deep and everything becomes a lot more sharp, a lot more crisp. You just have more mental clarity. And it has been absolutely life transforming, basically, for me.
I love it.
Yeah.
And like, from a healing perspective, I remember when I was in the hospital with meningitis and I had zero control. I couldn't see. I couldn't think. I didn't have the capacity to do anything. But what I could do was was meditate, at least try.
Right.
So I just played the meditation non-stop.
Right.
And it was healing meditations at the time, because I didn't know if I was going to come out the other side of that. You know, there was really a moment where I was like, oh, okay, I could die here and I can't do anything about it. But then I was like, yes, I can. I can meditate my way through it. I can heal from the inside out. And
awesome.
Obviously I survived. I mean, I thank the doctors most importantly, but I really think that I contributed to that healing as much as I could.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, good for you for taking it upon yourself to do that.
Yeah.
And, meditation can help on a physical level as well.
Yeah.
Right? It can help with your immune system, strengthen your physical body, a whole bunch of things.
And this is the funny thing when I said earlier about, like, at the time, I didn't know that there were so many different types of meditation.
Yeah,
I mean, this was 8 years ago, approximately. And yeah, I'd known about the mindful meditation and that was it. But now I use it in so many ways. Gratitude meditations are my favorites.
Awesome.
Manifesting meditations, visualizations of the future. I love to just let my mind be creative and think about the possibilities of life. So meditation, I'm a supporter.
Yeah, no, for sure. What sort of meditations do you do on a regular basis now?
So every night after I've done my 30-minute thought download, I do a 10-minute gratitude meditation.
Cool.
Every night.
So what does that look like?
That looks like really like thanking people in my life.
Beautiful.
I kind of compare it to a prayer. You know, I think of situations, 3 situations or moments in my life that I'm grateful for. And it could be big or small. You know, I have this one memory that I always go back to, and it's after a nightmare that I'd had as a kid. And I sat on my grandmother's lap and I just felt so safe. So I pull in memories like that and I just feel the feelings of love and gratitude. And then I send it out into the world. I send it out to specific people, always my family and my husband, of course, but then, you know, my clients, and based on what they're going through. And that's what it looks like.
That's beautiful. You know, it's great that you mentioned that, Jessica, because I've also started practicing gratitude recently.
Nice.
And I used to shun it a little bit and think it's not very important, but it also has contributed into changing my life in so many beautiful ways, right? Just taking 5 minutes a day to practice gratitude. So I have this gratitude journal that I just answer every day. It has some prompts.
Nice.
And just having a gratitude mindset is so healthy for you, right?
Yes,
because we're hardwired to complain, to look at the negative stuff. And it's like, oh, I don't have this, and oh, I need to be doing that. But if you take time in your day just to practice gratitude, 5-10 minutes a day, it really starts transforming your mindset, right? And makes you look at the positive things that you do have for a change.
It really, really does.
Yeah, it's so important.
Like we can very easily focus on the gaps, especially when it's called the goalpost effect. It's like we achieve something and then the goalpost moved, and we're just constantly chasing. No matter, you know, how far into our transformational journeys we are, it's, I think, wired into us to want. But like you said, you just bring that into your daily routine and anchor yourself in the present moment and what you've got. And it makes that goalpost less important.
Yeah,
I think.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned the goalpost, because that's such a construct of our egos. Our egos are always wanting what's next, right?
Yes.
And as soon as we achieve what we set out to achieve, it's like, okay, we enjoyed for 10 seconds maybe, and then we want the next thing, right? And that's the ego in us that's always trying to go for more or something different and not being content with the present moment, essentially.
100%.
You know, so practicing gratitude, meditation really helps you be grateful and stay grounded in the present, which is of the utmost importance.
I'll tell you a funny story about gratitude. So I have a tattoo that says gratitude.
Beautiful,
on
nice.
It. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So for about 10 years, I'd wanted a tattoo. But over the past 10 years, I've been unlearning perfectionism. And this December, I said, you know what? I'm going to pick a tattoo that I can't regret, that, can't be perfect or imperfect, which doesn't exist, by the way, but that's another story. But I'm going to pick a tattoo that is me, and relates to my philosophy for life. And I said, gratitude. That's my one guiding light in life, always.
Beautiful.
And when I got it, I mean, it is a lovely tattoo, but people start saying, the R is a little bit different. And I tell you what, I've had people say to me, why don't you just get it redone? And I said, you know what? Because I love it.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it.
That's what matters.
Yes, and the R is the beauty of it. That R, that's slightly different because it's a reminder for me. Perfection doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
It's subjective, and people can pick up on the R all they like. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great point. And it's funny because when I got a few tattoos as well, at first I was like, no, it needs to be perfect and this needs to be here. And then I was like, you know what? That's the beauty of it. Just get it raw, unfiltered. If there's some mistakes, it doesn't matter if the line isn't perfectly the way you want it.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of life, right?
You come to terms with the fact that now this is you. And obviously you can get them removed if you want to, but I'm of the mindset, it's like, this is part of me now. This is who I am.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's
funny.
And what other healing stuff have you done? What other healing modalities have you looked into? So I know you mentioned therapy as well.
Yes.
How has that been for you?
Yeah. It's been great.
Yeah.
I think, the thing is with healing, it looks different for everyone. And there are so many possibilities out there, right? It's like, therapy, coaching, seminar, workshops, like all of it. And each one of those things has contributed to my story. And so I would say that an investment in yourself, in your growth, is never regretted because you get a deeper understanding of who you are. You develop kindness, compassion for yourself, and you begin to really build that self-trust and self-love that you need to feel good and have that really kind inner dialogue with yourself.
Sure.
But let's think of specifics. So obviously we've all got trauma. We've all got wounds, big or small. So I wanted to start working on these straight away, as early as possible in my life when I saw them showing up in different areas, from abandonment to anxiety or overwhelm. I just wanted to learn about myself and how to handle these emotions that at the time I didn't want.
Sure.
But I learned actually through my coaching journey that part of that healing is to sit with emotions, no matter how positive or negative we view them, because that's the only way to regulate and to process and to move forward.
Absolutely.
But the funny thing is, it's like you think you've dealt with something and somewhere along the way, something can trigger it again. But that's the beauty of personal development, of growth, of transformations, because there is no end destination. You're not gunning for the promotion or the title. It's like there's always work to be done, and you're just waiting for the signs that you're ready to take them on. I think
absolutely. And that's beautifully put, Jessica, because like you were saying, a massive part of healing is being able to feel all the emotions in its rawness that you've been subconsciously running away from, right? And in this day and age, in our society, we're taught to repress our emotions or suppress them or numb them or dissociate from them. We're not taught to feel things so well, right? The expression is like, oh, this is stressful, I need a drink, or give me a cigarette, or whatever it is. That's essentially saying, I feel uncomfortable now. I don't like this emotion. I don't want to feel it. Give me something to take the emotion away or to numb the emotion, numb the pain.
To avoid it. Yeah,
exactly.
You're right.
And we've been doing this subconsciously our whole life, right? People do it through food. People do it through drink, through smoking, in many different formats. binge watching Netflix, overreading books, for example. It could be absolutely anything and everything to help. It's a maladaptive coping mechanism, basically, right?
Yes.
And like you said, if you have unhealed trauma, whether it's childhood trauma or adult trauma, big or small, there are things inside that need your attention, right?
Yeah.
And all these signals that we get, like anxiety, or if you get depressed, or if you get whatever it is, they're essentially signals telling you something within needs attention,
Yes,
right?
that's it.
And the problem is a lot of people don't know that, so they go on suppressing emotions, numbing them, and it's only really when you're able to sit with yourself, feel everything that you've stored inside, because we all have stuffed, repressed emotions, right? Or trauma, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And the minute you decide, okay, no more running away from my uncomfortable emotions, I'm going to face them head on. It could be messy sometimes. It's quite difficult to open up that Pandora's box, you know, because things can come gushing out, right?
Yes.
From childhood, from more recent events. But it's only through those emotions that we can actually get to the other side and be free from them.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's why things like therapy, meditation provide such a good platform for you to open that box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because for me, for example, I never even knew how much I had stored inside until I got to therapy. And then we started opening that box. I was like, oh, this is a pretty deep box, you know? You know? And I had no idea, right?
Yes.
And as soon as you start processing all your trauma, you start learning your patterns, you become more self-aware, you understand your wounding, your attachment styles. And then you grow so much from there, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so you really got to go through it. There is no other way around it, unfortunately. And it's also a very personal journey. You know, we're always, you know, as especially as children, we're always hoping somebody would come and save us, right? Usually it's our parents, but if we have, for example, trauma from parenting or from anything else, it's really up to us to do that work. It's a very individual journey that we have to take.
It is. And because of that, going through things like that, therapy, coaching, whatever your healing looks like, how much love do you build for yourself and compassion? You start to see yourself as a person, you know, and we are, most of our lives, we're taught to be hard on ourselves and to be our biggest critic. Whether we know it or not, we usually are.
Of course.
And so when we go through something like that, and, you know, a lot of the time, clients come to me for one thing. And the exact same thing happens. The box gets opened because I have to dig around, you know, to get the best transformation for somebody. And a lot of the time that means bringing up old wounds. And like you say, most of the time we don't even realize they're there because they're running subconsciously, but they're running our lives subconsciously. The decisions that we make, the habits that we have, and the relationships that we form, all of it is based on our experience of the world. And a lot of that includes trauma, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And a lot of it includes childhood trauma as well, right? So children get traumatized because at that age, they don't have the capacity to self-regulate. Children need something called co-regulation. And if they don't get that co-regulation from a parent, they learn to suppress that emotion, which can translate into trauma, basically.
And that is why I think, you know, people ask me about my opinion of healing or how I go about it. And obviously, like I said, dabbled in loads of different things. But I would say, like, the biggest thing for me has been actually sitting with the emotion, however uncomfortable that may be. And then at the end of that, really ask the question, what is this emotion trying to tell me?
Absolutely.
And taking action based on that. And that seems like the most simple exercise in the entire world, but to do it regularly because imagine all the emotions that we feel throughout the day. You know, we might have a spark of something and then naturally busy ourselves with something else. So I think, just being conscious of your emotions when they come up and sitting with them for a sec. What is under that and where that came from could be so deep and you don't even realize it.
Never even could have imagined it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because that's exactly what happened with me. You know, I had so much stuffed in there. And the minute, like we were saying earlier, that you open that Pandora's box, it's like, okay, you need to feel everything now. And like you were saying, what does this emotion tell me? What's it trying to say, right? So anxiety serves a purpose. Grief serves a purpose. Whether you have anger, all emotions, I've learned, Jessica, are sacred. There's no good or bad. We may judge them as good or bad, but emotions all exist for a reason. Every single emotion, right? Anger, grief, rage, happiness, regret, everything serves a purpose.
And
absolutely. The only way to free yourself from them is to feel it all. So in my healing journey, I had to feel the grief, I had to feel the rage at some points, right? You need to feel everything. And once you feel it, you free yourself from it.
Yes, absolutely. And I can, you know what, I can vouch for the both of us because I know us, but you know, I haven't seen you in so many years. And so in my mind, you are the Roy that I met 10 years ago. And the Roy that I see sitting here today and, you know, who I'm having this conversation with is totally zen, you know, calm and collected and, you know, in the most beautiful way.
Thank you.
I can really understand that journey that you went through. Whilst it is personal and you're not giving me all the details.
We need a whole other episode for that.
Exactly. But I can just say whatever it was that you did was worth it.
Thank
totally.
you. Thank you so much, Jessica. I really appreciate that.
Welcome.
And yeah, it's just you know, for anyone listening, going on a healing journey is probably one of the most important things that you can do.
Yes.
Right? Because it just liberates you and sets you up for a better future, essentially, a freer future, a lighter future, a more aligned future. Because like you were saying, you know, since we're born, we're all conditioned into following what society expects us to do. Whether it's our parents, whether it's schools, whether it's cultures, Hollywood, social media, anything and everything conditions us to believe that we should be somebody other than ourselves. And that is the greatest, I think, issue with the world nowadays is we're taught from a young age, you shouldn't be who you are. You need to become somebody. You need to be somebody else, right? We're all born in our natural state and we have our own intuition, we have our own guidance. But since birth, that's heavily covered through all the conditioning that we gather, and then we lose touch with that intuition, that inner GPS, that inner guidance, right? And healing is essentially removing all that conditioning, all the trauma, all the noise, so that we reconnect with our innermost selves, right? We were all meant to be unique, and unfortunately now in society, there's a lot of people trying to portray a certain personality or a certain role. They're trying to put on a show. Or their ego is trying to, you know, dominate or whatever the case may be. Everybody is putting on an act in a certain way. Whereas we're 8 billion people on this planet and it should be 8 billion unique characters. But unfortunately, we have all these stereotypes because people like to gravitate towards a certain direction. Right?
I tell you what, like, okay, so the Jess from, you know, a year and a half ago. Sitting in front of cameras or public speaking in general, I would have been like absolutely crapping myself. Like I really would, right? And to an extent, I get a feeling come up ahead of public speaking or ahead of recording and things like that. And I sit with it and I question why. And I overcome it because I have decided that success now looks like for me being authentic.
Yeah.
And I know I'm weird and wonderful and unique, and that is what I pride myself on. But with that, takes so much pressure off, because then I can sit through something like this today and have a good time and get excited about it rather than freaking out about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's important to, be self-aware, to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And then when you're vulnerable and you're honest, you start to take a deeper look at yourself and you free yourself, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like, for example, even when I first started the podcast, first episode, I was super nervous, wanted it to be a certain way, wanted it to be perfect, wanted to give off a certain impression. And then, which is natural, right? Every time we start something, it's normal to feel nervous, to feel like you need to get it right.
Yeah.
And then in time, it's just like, okay, be yourself,
Yes.
and things will flow the way they will flow,
Yeah.
and that's perfect.
That it is perfect. And that is like taking us again back to the point of just like this whole personal development journey. No
Absolutely.
matter how much work you've done,
Yeah.
something will always come up and be like, hi,
Absolutely.
look at me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, from the first episode of your podcast, having those feelings and being like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah,
but then it's
absolutely.
an opportunity, isn't it? Like, look at you today, like proper chilled out.
I guess, for anyone listening, it's the message is you got to start somewhere, right?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Get it going, and then you can make adjustments as you go.
Yes.
I was the type that I was always a perfectionist in what I like to do. That's because I got the message earlier on that I wasn't good enough, so I had to, prove myself and go for the best and only expose myself if I thought I was perfect.
Yes.
And if I wasn't perfect, it's like, no, I'm going to hide until I'm perfect. And once I become perfect, then I will expose myself.
Yes.
So I always wanted to be the best. I wanted to be, the strongest when I started going to the gym. And anything less than perfect would be unacceptable to me, because that's the message that I got earlier on, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's not about that. It's about, being raw, unfiltered, and flowing through your natural self, however funny or goofy it may be.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I pride myself on being goofy. I love the weird, the weirdness in me.
No, absolutely.
But I wasn't always like that either,
Yeah, neither was I.
Yeah, we just, and I think you made a great point. Starting somewhere, that's it, because a lot of people will be watching this like, it's great for you guys. You guys are great on camera, but that was not always the case. And I think for people to relate, it's like, if they wanted to do something that seems so far out of touch for them from a coaching lens, it's just like break it down, micro steps in the right direction. I think you said progress is better than perfect,
Absolutely.
And I live by that, because that is what's going to move the needle, whether it be healing, whether it be towards your next goal or anything. But those micro steps in the right direction. And also, I think trying things, actually, like trying things will allow you to see what is not for you and what is for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's so beautifully put, because if you're not out there trying, you might not ever know, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's by process of elimination that you figure out what you can like, right?
Yes.
It's like, okay, I've tried this, maybe I don't like this so much. And then funnily enough, sometimes you may take an experience from that time and incorporate it into your next experience or into finding whatever does work for you.
100%. 100%.
And all of these steps help you return to your authenticity, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Because, now, Jessica, I have like a different understanding of life. It's like, since we're young, we're not fully in touch with our authenticity, although we should be, because children are very authentic, very expressive, very joyful. They haven't had any conditioning yet. Their egos are not really there.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of like the first half of our life, we go away from our true selves. And then at some point, there's a return, there's a homecoming.
Yes,
right?
homecoming.
There's a homecoming,
Yes.
a return to authenticity.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what a part of healing is, right? It's taking out the conditioning, healing your trauma, just so that you can return to your authentic self, who Jessica is, who Jessica always was, actually.
Yes, deep
it's
down.
not even, exactly, it's not even necessarily someone that you've become. It's almost like you've always been that person, but you're almost like shy or afraid to show it or to flaunt it, right?
The world got in the way, and it created these rules that we live by, and our internal rules that we set for ourselves. And it's a shame, but then of course parents are human too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely. They have their own conditioning, they have their own trauma, right? They're doing what they know is best, whether it may be best or not. That's a different, story. They're trying, right? But
I tell you what, so this actually links back to why I started the Kindness Catalogue.
Yeah.
So a part of me, of course, wants to be out giving workshops and in events and with people, but of course, on some level, I only have a certain amount of time. As a coach, like you have a certain amount of time to have a certain amount of clients. And so you need to put a price tag on that.
Sure.
And with the courses, my whole idea around the courses was to make courses accessible for the average person, because I look at my mom, right? She was single parent. She had me and my brother. She loved personal development. She was studying psychology at university.
Awesome.
She was working 2 jobs alongside that. And she just didn't have the funds. Like, we had a very basic, humble beginning, which I love because it made me who I am. But I just think having something like this, like a really high value course with tools and strategies and, that you can practically apply to your life at an affordable cost, like how much value would that add to the average person's life?
Of course.
Thinking of people like my mom. So I think, our parents, they were the best that they could be, but also I think that we need to get creative with how we actually take tools and knowledge through things like podcasts. It's amazing, like helping to educate people and helping to heal them and make them the best version of themselves in whatever way we can do it. But I love the idea of trying different things, and so courses, that's one way that I'm trying to do that.
Good for you. For you. And like you were saying, it's so important to work on yourself, not just for yourself, but also for literally everybody and anybody around you.
Yes.
Whether it's in relationships, whether it's your friends, your family members, and most importantly, if you do have children one day, they will get the most benefit from you doing the healing work, right? Any trauma that you may have inherited from before, you're no longer passing that down onto future generations.
Yes.
So you raise more loving children, more authentic children, more loving children. And that essentially spreads out to, it sounds a little bit dramatic, but to healing the world, essentially. It all starts from you, right? It's the only thing that you can do really is to work on yourself and to heal yourself. And that will spread across to every single human being that you may get in touch with.
Yes. People say to me that, of course, we meet people and subconsciously we give them labels based on the interpretation that we have of them. And, somebody reached out to me on Instagram a couple of days ago and said, I just want you to know you're beautiful. And I first read it and I was like, that doesn't mean much to me, like I don't pride myself on beauty. But as I read the rest of it, it said on the inside. And I tell you what, that touched me deeply. That's like the best compliment, I think, to tell somebody that they're beautiful on the inside, because that is exactly what I'm trying to do, linking back to what you were saying of really radiating my kindness and beauty from within to spread to people around me. And obviously I surround myself by people that equally radiate, and it's a give and take relationship, but it starts with one person.
Absolutely.
The ripple effect can be the world, like you said,
Absolutely.
the world.
No, absolutely. And, it's another, aspect of working on your inner self is that when, for me personally, before I had done any work on myself, I cared a lot more on external appearances because there was something lacking on the inside, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to be, the biggest and the strongest and always having, the newest, I don't know, clothing or shoes or whatever it is when I was younger.
Yeah.
In our Blue Marlin days, maybe,
Exactly. I was going there.
So that was always the case. And then the more you work on yourself on the inside, you come to realize how much less the exterior is, right?
Yes. I think it's all about, when I was thinking about this the other day, I said, the reason being is because it's all about how we feel.
Yeah.
That is it. And so I used to pride myself on going to the gym for a couple of hours a day. And I know, as a coach, you're probably like, yeah, good job.
Yeah.
But I was doing it for the wrong reasons.
Sure.
I wasn't to be healthy. It was to look good.
More aesthetic.
Yeah. And now I still love the gym, but I go to feel good.
Yeah.
And doesn't take away from my progress.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from how much effort I put in.
Yeah.
It just allows me to make a conscious decision to feel good.
Yeah.
And imagine you get to go and you get to maybe look good, but you also get to have the experience of living in the moment and saying, oh yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, I think that's coming for time. Watch that. It's all the time that we have for today. So yeah, I guess if there's one last message we want to leave with people, at least from my side, is heal yourself, spread kindness like you're doing, and spread love all over the world.
Yes.
Anything you'd like to finish off with?
I think maybe just stay tuned for my courses that are launching starting 1st of
June.
I did what you did, 1st of June.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for my courses that are launching starting the 1st of June until the end of the year.
Yeah.
We have a lot of healing in there. So in this particular course that I'm launching, which is Life by Design, Create a Life That You Love, as I was mapping it out, I had to include healing.
Yeah.
And I had to incorporate that at the very beginning of the course, because aligning your life on what feels great and what looks good and feels good means starting within and really getting clear on where you are today. So I think, please, look out for my course.
Beautiful. And people can find you on
the Kindness Catalog on every platform. Yes.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica, for agreeing to come on. It's been a pleasure. You've shared some beautiful insights, and hopefully this episode can help people on their paths and journeys.
I hope so. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Cool.
Yay!
Awesome. Was the time okay?